analysis of the loading of CO2 into the environment. And where we are today, the loading in the environment is at or worse than the worst case scenario that was developed as the Kyoto Protocol was being developed was being drafted in the 1990s. So even with all the things we've done so far, we're tracking at the worst case scenario. So again, that to me supports the fact that we've got to make a radical change. You've heard already people talk about silver bullets versus silver buckshot, and those are kind of terms that are bandied about these days in the energy and environmental world. We've already tried a couple of silver bullets, and we've put our national treasure and our great scientific minds towards them, and because we haven't been smart enough to look at the entire life cycle impact of some of these ideas, or silver bullets, if you will, we've already made some serious problems, or we've made some serious mistakes, I should say, even in the 5 or 6 years that we've been kind of monkeying around with this, or maybe 10 years, I suppose. Ethanol. We thought that was going to be the savior, right? We had the issue with impacting food crops. A couple years ago, Mexicans couldn't even afford cornmeal for tortillas because Mexican corn was being moved to the United States to make ethanol. We impacted the food chain. But even worse than that, and that's pretty darn bad, nobody had bothered to do a life cycle analysis of the CO2 emissions of planting corn to making ethanol. The conclusion was, when somebody else actually got around to actually doing the work, that the life cycle CO2 emissions from ethanol are worse, not better, than fossil fuel foreign imported oil. So we spent gazillions of dollars building ethanol plants in this country and actually made the problem worse. Deforestation of energy crops. I bet everybody in this room knows who the top 2 CO2 emitters are in the world, right? Not going to even ask you. China and India. I'm sorry, China and the United States. I'm sorry. China and the United States. Does anybody know who number 3 is? No, but close. I guessed wrong. I mean, you're in the right direction. I thought it would be a major industrial country or a major energy producing country. It's not. It's Indonesia. And why is it Indonesia? It has nothing to do with fossil energy production or industrialism. They're burning down the rainforest to grow palm oil. The palm oil that Richard Branson, who runs the Virgin Group, wanted to use to make biofuel for his jets. So the biofuel that he selected, and I don't blame Richard Branson, he's one of the guys that is out there trying to move the world in the right direction. But because his people didn't give him the right total information, he actually bought into a concept that was generating more CO2 than his jets would have ever done burning just regular fossil energy. And guys like Richard Branson have come on and said that carbon trading is suspect. Great idea. That's what we've got to do, reduce our overall carbon emissions. But the folks who've actually done the analysis are looking at the carbon trading schemes and are having a hard time figuring out how the schemes are actually reducing CO2 in the environment when you actually try to connect the dots and figure that out. So we're looking for the silver bullets. We're probably not quite there yet. And that's again why I say we need a paradigm shift to really change and impact this in an appropriate fashion. Well, then let me finally get back and then wrap up on this point. I kind of went away from the concept of energy independence versus interdependence, but I thought it was important to establish for you all some of these baselines, some of these things that have been troubling me as I was trying to do policy at the federal government level and try to look at the military and strategic international risk of energy and environmental sustainability. Those baselines are kind of important to determine where we go here. And obviously, a little while ago, I told you it was kind of clear where my conclusion would be. But take a look at what happens if each country drives for energy independence. We all are going to try to use the resources that we have within our grasp to take care of what that particular country, whatever that country is, needs. So you may use energy resources in a very inefficient way, but you're going to do it to keep the entire chain within your country. What's going to happen? You're going to have protectionism. And when you have protectionism, you're going to limit the flow of money. You're going to limit the flow of technology. You're going to limit the flow of intellectual collaboration, which is going to slow down our progress to the post-carbon economy or the ultimate solution here. The rush to grab resources. For those of you who read about energy, China, and I don't blame China for doing this, but China is out in the world securing leases for fossil energy sources. They're in Canada, they're in Cuba, they're virtually everywhere else you can talk about. The Chinese are there and they're doing it to prosper. If we get to a point of everybody looking to be independent, that grab for resources is going to go way beyond where we are today. A grab for resources is a flashpoint for tension, a tension that may lead to war. And if everybody's headstrong on energy independence, I can guarantee you that what's going to happen is we are going to take environmental stewardship and it's going to go to a very far back seat. So we're going to end up with issues on global warming and everything else you can possibly imagine, because that is not going to be a priority. There is obviously an absolute flip side when you look at the concept of energy interdependence, efficiency, where energy resources are used in their best form, fit, and function throughout the world, rather than being used potentially in an inefficient manner in a smaller environment. Cross-border collaboration is critical to solve this problem, as I mentioned on an earlier chart. The size and scale of what we're trying to accomplish here is so monumental. You know, people talk about the energy effort and the global warming effort to be like an Apollo Man on the Moon project or another Manhattan project. Those two projects pale into comparison in terms of the challenge we have ahead of us here. Interdependence allows for all nations to participate, to develop and feed their own growth as part of that interdependence, working together. And if we're working together on this, we're going to also keep environmental stewardship, global warming at the front of at the fore of this of the effort. Now, being, I hope, a good American and understanding the issues we've had with manufacturing in this country for the last several decades, we do have technologies in this country that we lead on. Unfortunately, in the energy spectrum, there are very few. One of them just happens to be the subject of this meeting today. Not large nuclear, because unfortunately, because we've kind of backed away from that in this country for the last 30 years. France and Japan and a few other countries probably have taken the lead in that area and kind of left us in the dust. But small package nuclear, the technologies that are growing today are US-based technologies. And you'll hear more about the technology later in the session. But when you talk about needing to provide power to little villages through India and Africa, when you look at the other big issue in the world, and that is clean water, the ability to clean water, desalinate water takes a lot of power. It's localized. These small nuclear reactors allow you to electrify on a very distributed way. It allows you to democratize energy. It allows you to deal with the water issue so that you can irrigate, and people in arid climates and questionable climates can actually start building an agricultural economy, which, by the way, could result in growing biomass for fuel. So these small reactors allow us to deal with a lot of the issues we've been talking about, but have not been able to find a clear solution to. So I'll shut up at this point. I know we want to get through all the speakers and allow some time at the end for questions, but I thank you for your time and attention, and hopefully there was a nugget or two in there that was of some value to you as you consider where you stand on this issue. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.